by the way, about this thing about having the debate on it. I mean, it's incredibly tedious when politicians say, let's have a debate. Think, no, you're meant to make decisions after a debate's happened outside in society and so on. But there is a need in this country to tell people what they are immigrating into. And there's and I agree with part of your point. I mean, we have been very, very bad in Britain in recent years of saying what we are. And if you don't know what you're immigrating into, how on earth can you become part of that society? And especially when there's then a whole chorus of people saying it doesn't matter whether you're part of society. Whatever you want, whichever tune you want to play, whatever variation, however crazy, even if you bring, I hate to say Baroness Flathers behind the Times on this one, there are indeed cases of men who brought 4 wives into this country and who have them on benefits. This is a great example. If you're a Scottish man who wants to commit bigamy, you'll be sent into jail. But if you're a man who's just immigrated into the country and you've got 4 wives, they'll all be paid for. Now, it doesn't take much to recognise,
honestly,
but that's not a great way to go on.
That's
not a great way to go on if you want a cohesive society.
Yes, thank you very much. This culture thing has always interested me enormously, because I mean, we all know cultures are not static. It's not a box that you can pick up and say, this is my culture, this is your culture. I came here first in 1952. It was a very dull country, very dull looking and very dull country. It is not now. It is a wonderfully vibrant thing. Every festival is celebrated in Trafalgar Square. I think we have nothing to complain about on that. Now, as far as the core values, yes, I think we do have core values. All of us have, perhaps not exactly the same, but we have core values. And I think we ought to try and inculcate them to the children in the schools. And also, I would make everybody learn English. If they don't want to learn English, you know, they have to be forced to learn English. If you can't speak the language, you're deaf, you can't speak, what is that? If we are to be part of their culture, they have to be part of the whole.
Okay, David Frost, I'll come to you in 1 second, but Trevor Phillips was desperate to come in a moment ago, so I'll come to you in a second. Yeah, Trevor.
Look, I'm not going to be cast as the guy here who's in favour of laissez-faire, multicultural. I'm the person that there are people who still won't speak to me for saying that I thought that we need to drop the whole state multiculturalism idea. I think the fundamental point, first of all, immigrants in this country, if you survey them, are the most hawkish about people learning English, because they know how important it is. So nobody has, you know, I don't have to apologise for that. Secondly, on the issue of British identity, I do agree, actually. I mean, here's, unfortunately, something that Douglas and I agree about. I think it's incredibly important. I think it's something we've got to debate about. And the reason is this. If you talk to immigrants, and I've been to some of the citizenship ceremonies, which I have found incredibly moving, these are people who have chosen Britishness. Why do they choose Britishness? Well, one reason is because being British is not an ethnic identity, as many identities across the world is. It is an identity that you can put on if you sign up to certain values and behaviours. And one of them, for example, the surveys show that if you ask people, what's the best symbol of being British, they will tell you it's a queue. Because why? Everybody's equal in a queue, and it has a tradition of civility that's important to our country. So all these things are tremendously important.
Hang on, Douglas Murray?
Okay. Can I please ask, is there another group of people in the world of whom who would select in a country and say, you know what, you don't actually have an identity. You're not a people. You're not a recognisable people. You never were. Is there any other group that enjoys this?
Nobody
is Britain.
Nobody has said that about the
identity?
British people. Are you saying?
There is no identity other than
all right, Douglas, you've had your point.
I haven't said that that's true about the British people. I said exactly the opposite. All I said is that our identity is not ethnic, but it is civil. I think it's stronger for that because we choose it.
David Frost, you've been very patient.
Well, I think we've moved away somewhat from the question. When we talk about values, I think we certainly do have certainly core values, and one of those is about hard work, and another one is about fairness. And the British people understand people who come across from any part of the world who, as I say, work hard, contribute, and I think more importantly, and this is at the heart of this debate, integrate. And I think the problems have come about, and why migration in many parts of this country and certain, what I would term hotspots, is such an issue is because we have had groups that have come across either first or second generation who do not integrate into the wider society, and that's why people feel threatened. And until we somehow deal with that issue, and it's not just about living all together, but it's in terms of education and in terms of work, then I think this problem will persist.
And are you in favour of citizenship tests?
Absolutely in favour of citizenship, and I think language is at the heart. I think the idea of anybody coming over here and trying to do a citizenship test who can't speak English is nonsense, and I totally agree with you. And if you can't speak English, then how do you manage to survive in this society? How do you do the very basics, such as, you know, shopping, working with the government, working with, interplaying with banks? You cannot do it. So yes, there has to be a strong citizenship test, which you feel proud of, but at the real heart of that, you must speak English.
Let me get one more question, which was down here.
Yeah. It's just I want to ask the panel's opinion on the policy response to this debate within society, because the debate in the press and as it's framed, which has caused these sort of opinion polls, is about the lower end of the economy, sort of migrants, so mostly Eastern European migrants, whereas the policy response has been to sort of attack the higher value sort of economic migrants. I just want to ask both sides of the debate what they think of that policy reaction.
Let's take that one first, because it does enable us to talk about something which hasn't been raised so far, and that's the whole issue of immigration from other European Union nations, who of course do have, as of right, the ability to come here to live and work. Trevor Phillips, the debate at the moment at government level is about capping skilled worker arrivals. The concerns that are expressed largely, as the questioner put it, are about unskilled workers. Now, how do you explain that mismatch?
Well, I think that the conversation that you're talking about, as you say, which takes place in some of the newspapers and so on, in a way, it's a point I made a moment ago, is really about a kind of immigration that took place 20 to 25 years ago. There isn't actually all that much unskilled migration into this country. So I think the problem is that there's a debate which is going on about a situation that has passed, and policy is now trying to respond to the situation that we are now in, which is, frankly, where we have to bring in a lot of IT workers, we have to bring in a lot of managers, we have to bring in high-value workers. And I think
but the numbers are a fraction of the total number of people who come to the country each year, aren't they?
Yeah, but then the rest of the numbers are students, they are family reunification. There isn't the great flood, if I can put it that way, of unskilled people like my parents who came in the 40s and the 50s because A, a lot of them don't want to come here, B, they can't get here. There is trafficking, and I think that's not a migration problem, that's just a crime that we've got to deal with. But I think that's a whole other area of policy.
But I think it's fair to say, Trevor, the system is abused. I mean, yes, we've been focusing on the cap, but there is too much evidence of people who are brought into here who are supposedly highly skilled and then rapidly end up working in meat processing factories. And that's what we've clearly got to deal with. But we have got to, this is the key part, and that's why there's been so much focus over recent weeks, we have got to allow these highly skilled migrants, whether it be from Japan or it be from India or from China, to have access to this country to work for some of the global players that are located here.
Srila Flather, Trevor Phillips just mentioned students who come here. I think something like 25% of overseas immigration is made up of foreign students, and I have the impression that there's at least a sprinkling of foreign students in the hall here. Just raise your hand as a matter. Right, okay.
Oh, there aren't any British.
Okay.
70 to 80% of the
They're
audience.
all overstayers. That's what.
We won't ask you for your papers. But Srila Flather, you came here as a student, didn't you?
I came here as a student in the days before immigration rules. I mean, I'm so
old. You had it easy.
I'm so old. Anybody could come and study, but I did come to a renowned university.
Keith Vaz, the chairman of the Home Affairs Select Committee, said that if the government is going to bring down immigration levels substantially, as it says it is determined to do, it will have to slash the number of overseas students who are allowed to come here.
Yeah. Can we just look at it properly? Because there's an awful lot...
I hope that's what we're doing.
All right. An awful lot of students who come here come to bogus institutions. It's a means of getting immigration status. What is even worse is people pay like thousands of pounds they can ill afford, say, in a country like India, and they come here, and there is no institution for them to go to, and many of them then are returned.
So you think there is room for cutting substantially the number of people who come here as, quote, overseas students,
yes,
unquote,
but
who
not
you would regard as bogus?
Cutting students who have valid places to go to, because I don't want people not to come here as students, because I think then we send them, if they go back, they take back something important with them.
Thank you very much for that. There, I'm afraid, is where we must leave it. So my thanks to all of our guests here on the panel, to Trevor Phillips of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, David Frost from the British Chambers of Commerce, Baroness Flather, and Douglas Murray of the Centre for Social Cohesion. My thanks also, of course, to you here in the audience. My thanks to our hosts here at Chatham House. That's The World Tonight. This is Robin